The legal counsel to Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's Victor Giwa has dismissed her 6-month suspension by the Senate, arguing that it violates a court order. Now, the suspension followed a heated exchange with Senate President Godwin Akpabio. Giwa insists that the Senate's action is unlawful as a court order had restrained the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges from taking further steps in the matter. He maintains that Akpoti-Uduaghan has the constitutional right to seek legal redress when her civil rights are violated. The Nigerian Bar Association and opposition parties have also criticized the Senate for failing to grant Akpoti-Uduaghan sufficient opportunity to present her sexual harassment complaint against Akpabio. In the same vein, the Nigerian Senate has suspended Kogi Central lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for 6 months following her heated confrontation with the President of the Senate, Godwin Akpabio, during plenary on February the 20th. The suspension came after the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions presented its report on the floor of the Senate in Abuja, which was overwhelmingly adopted by other lawmakers. Our National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, brings us more details.
Fresh petition further fueling the debate over her conduct.
The petition.
As the day's proceedings began, plenary ran its usual course under the leadership of President of the Senate, Godwin Akpabio. Lawmaker Akpoti-Uduaghan, however, introduced a fresh petition, further fueling the debate over her conduct.
The petition.
As the day's proceedings began, it ran its usual course under the leadership of President of the Senate, Godwin Akpabio. Lawmaker Akpoti-Uduaghan, however, introduced a fresh petition, further fueling the debate over her conduct.
The petition is against the President of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Godwin Akpabio, for sexual harassment, abuses of office.
Is there any legal impediment?
On the subject matter, none, sir.
Please proceed to lay the petition.
Shortly after, the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions submitted its report on the Senator's alleged misconduct during the February 20th plenary session.
That her behavior on the 20th of February 2025 was unethical and unbecoming of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by refusing to uphold the moral sanctity of the Senate and of the hallowed chamber.
Debate ensued.
Let the decision of the committee, let it stand.
3 months is sufficient for some level of restitution.
My advice and appeal to her will be that she spends her period of suspension to read and learn our rules very well.
The President of the Senate then subjected the committee's recommendations to a voice vote, which resulted in an overwhelming approval for Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension. However, an amendment was made following lawmaker Orji Uzakalu's appeal to exclude her legislative aides from the penalties.
It will be wrong to punish aides that have not committed any offense. The aides of Natasha is not Natasha.
That for the period of her suspension, she be barred from representing herself to the public locally and internationally as a Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those who support prayer and say aye. Those again say nay. The ayes have it.
In the end, Akpoti-Uduaghan had the final word.
This injustice will not be sustained.
As part of her suspension, she is barred from all legislative activities with her office sealed and Senate properties returned. She cannot access the National Assembly premises and her staff also restricted. Her salaries and allowances are suspended except for legislative aids, and her security details have been withdrawn. She is prohibited from representing herself as a senator both locally and internationally. To seek reconsideration, she must submit a written letter of apology to the Senate. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
In the meantime, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan on Thursday resubmitted a sexual harassment petition against Senate President Godwin Akpabio. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Diaspora and NGOs resubmitted the petition during plenary after her earlier petition was rejected by the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petitions. Speaking during the presentation, the Kogi state lawmaker said that the newly submitted petition was filed by her constituents, led by one Zubairu Yakubu.
Is in my name against the President of the Nigerian Senate, His Excellency Senator Godwill Akpabio, for sexual harassment, abuse of office, and malicious obstruction of my legislative functions. You may recall, sir, that on Friday in Arise TV, I did make some statements. And I have decided to narrow these statements in a formal petition against the President of this Senate. So if it may please you, I would humbly step forward and lay this petition. Thank you.
You may proceed.
Earlier, we were joined by former Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Sinatu Ojikutu, to discuss more on this development.
Women all over Nigeria and in fact globally, because the way this thing played out, I'm not sure Natasha was given a fair hearing. I don't know what was presented, what the committee saw, or what was heard there that gave rise to the decision to suspend her. But from what we have been following, you know, it seems as if it was already a done deed that this woman must go down. For even daring to come out to say that she was sexually harassed by the top man in the Senate. We believe that it's already a done deed that she will go down. Anybody who has been in the system, any woman, knows that we suffer silently sexual harassment in our line of work. And for anybody who cannot tolerate what is going on, I have had occasion to slap men in close quarters. But, you know, maybe these are men, I don't come out to say that, you know, so and so sexually harassed me or not that, because I have my own way of dealing with it. But I believe that not giving Natasha the opportunity to say how things went down, you know, and in the open, I think there is a kind of guilt, something there.
Tensions are rising in Rivers State as the Niger Delta rescue movement has threatened to attack oil facilities over the ongoing political crisis and the withholding of the state's federal allocation. Now, the group has warned non-indigents to leave the state, claiming hostilities are imminent. In response, the Rivers State Police Command has pledged to clamp down on any threats to national security. Commissioner of Police Olugbenga Adepoju assured residents that security forces are fully prepared to prevent unrest, warning that no group has a monopoly on violence and that any attempt to destabilize the state will not be tolerated. Away from that, the Nigeria Sanctions Committee has designated 17 individuals and organizations as terrorism financiers. Those named on the list include Simon Ekpa, Godstime Promise Iyare, Francis Mmaduabuchi, and Igwe Ka Ala Enterprises. Now, the list, approved by the Nigerian President on the recommendation of the Attorney General of the Federation, mandates the immediate freezing of bank accounts and financial instruments linked to the named individuals and entities. Financial institutions and other relevant stakeholders have been directed to enforce the sanctions and submit compliance reports to the Nigerian Sanctions Committee. These measures are part of the government's broader efforts to disrupt terrorism financing in Nigeria. The committee has also called for full cooperation from all stakeholders to ensure effective enforcement. To judicial matters now, the Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday adjourned the alleged money laundering case instituted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission against the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, to March 7th for continuation of trial. When the matter was called on Thursday, counsel for the EFCC, Kemi Pinheiro, SAN, called Williams Abimbola its witness on subpoena. The witness confirmed during cross-examination that the former governor's name did not feature in the opening and management of the said Kogi Government House bank account. Now, she also noted that she was not the accounts officer of the Kogi Government House account and that the account is domiciled in Lokoja, Kogi State, and not Area 3, Abuja, where she works. Uncertainty surrounds the health of former presidential spokesperson Dr. Doyin Okupe following conflicting reports about his condition on Friday morning. Now, sources close to the family say that the former Director General of the Peter Obi Presidential Campaign Council is in critical condition. However, some of his political associates, speaking anonymously, claimed that he had passed away. Okupe had reportedly been critically ill for weeks before undergoing surgery at an undisclosed hospital. As of the time of this report, his family has neither confirmed nor denied the rumors of his death. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the death toll from the collapsed two-story building at Oriwu Estate in Lagos on Wednesday has risen to 4. Territorial Coordinator of the National Emergency Management Agency in the Southwest region, Ibrahim Farinloye, on Thursday, said 2 additional bodies were retrieved from the rubble while a man was rescued. News Central's Bettina Nweli has more.
Incessant building collapse has been a recurring decimal in Lagos, Nigeria's economic nerve center. This is the second of such in the year 2025 as a 3-story building under construction collapsed on Wednesday at Oriwu Street in the Lekki Phase 1 area of Lagos State. A team from News Central visited the site but were denied entry and coverage.
I'm just trying to get... No, let me talk to you. I'm just trying to understand.
Dr. Olufemi Oke Osoyintolu, Permanent Secretary of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, confirmed 4 fatalities, 6 persons reportedly sustained varying degrees of injury, while the number of rescued victims has risen to 14. While the immediate cause of the collapse is yet to be ascertained and further investigations are underway, this recent incident underscores the critical need for stringent enforcement of building regulations and adherence to safety standards to prevent such tragedies in the future. In Oriwu Estate, Lagos, for News Central, I am Bettina Nweli.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Air Force has apologized for the invasion of Ikeja Electric offices in Lagos and the assault on the workers. Representatives of Ikeja Electric and Air Force briefed the media shortly after a closed-door meeting at the head office of the power distribution company in Alausa, Ikeja, Lagos State.
Sadly, because of the fact that we have a system whereby, as a distribution company, the responsibility of collection lies primarily with us, and remission of that money into a common account, which is escrowed, of course, with that responsibility of equally paying upstream the gas suppliers, the generation companies, transmission company of Nigeria, and other critical market participants. Of course, that has led to liabilities in our books that we've been carrying in our balance sheet, and it has made us quite a bankrupt organization, so to speak. Somehow we've been riding the wave, but it's been very difficult and challenging. And if we cannot collect, how do we pay our staff? How do we incentivize them to be able to do what they are paid to do?
As you've heard from the chairman, electricity in the base environment is not a luxury. It is an essential commodity. In the last couple of days, we have been in darkness. It's true. But our dialogue today has been very fruitful. we try to make sure that our men are always under positive control at all times. In our part, we will investigate what has happened and sanction appropriately.
Earlier, a public affairs analyst, Dr. Victor Okai, joined us on the news for his perspective on the development.
As any military person or strategist tell you, every war usually ends with that, in most cases. And so why don't we start from the beginning? And in terms of dialogue, you know, of course, that the military, you have the rank and file and you have the officers. Officers are called officers and gentlemen, and it is for a reason. It means that they are more recent. And that the rank and file, unfortunately, if you recall, I don't know if you recall the story of, or the saga of Mad Dog, still involving Air Force officers. Several years ago, it was M.K. Abiola, whose family had an encounter with some Air Force personnel. His wife and children were handled by the Air Force officers. And when he got to talk to his friends at that high level, sir, Chief, don't mind that this will be like Mad Dogs. And then the Mad Dog saga, it was then called, it became popular then, So what I think should have happened is engagement at the highest level.
Nigeria's Ministry of Women Affairs has received harsh criticism over its failure to protect victims of rape and gender-based violence and also cater for their treatment. Now, this was as several concerned citizens protested at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja, accusing ministry officials of failing to live up to its responsibilities in its handling of rape cases. The protesters expressed their displeasure over two particular cases involving a minor who was raped by her father and an adolescent girl who was raped by a 72-year-old suspect and infected with HIV.
She was raped and infected with HIV. And that is how this lady's life was destroyed. She was taken to the shelter. The shelter is where, under Ministry of Women Affairs, where you people are presenting budget. The budget that have been given there, we don't know what you people are doing it with. And the girl suffered tremendously. The mother have to take her out. This one was defied by her animal father. As I speak to you now, the man is there in Anambra, threatening the woman, the wife, say that why should you expose me? And this building is there. And we have Minister of Women Affairs. I don't want to tell you, I can comfortably close here, tell you about 15 letters I have written about women here.
You ask us to speak out when we are abused and we are spoken out. We didn't get the needed justice. They've not been going to school. They've not been given any kind of empowerment, to my knowledge. And I want to believe sincerely that the minister is not aware of what is going on. I will repeat it again. I want to believe the minister is not aware of what is going on. That's why we are here. And I will tell you for free, until these girls get justice, I will not stop appearing. They must go back to school.
We will be celebrating International Women's Day. I don't know what we'll be celebrating. Why will we be celebrating International Women's Day when some women are here suffering? We cannot be celebrating. What are we celebrating? So these issues must be attended to immediately.
To rape a child. We are here to say that it is inhuman for a woman to suffer for nothing. We are against all sexual harassment against women. We are saying that Nigeria must stand up, and the Ministry of Women Affairs must be doing more than what they are doing now.
Ahead of the International Women's Day celebration, the First Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu, has commended women in the country for their extraordinary show of resilience and dexterity in their responsibilities. Now, the First Lady of Nigeria and also the National Coordinator of the Renewed Hope Initiative met with the wives of state governors in Abuja as part of the first quarter high-level meeting of the Renewed Hope Initiative and urged Nigerian women to continue to excel in their endeavors.
To say Happy Women's Day. We are counting down is Beijing, and the theme is all centered around Beijing after 3 decades. What have we done as women? Women, we've come a long way. Even from all the matriarchs of old, they've contributed, and up till now, women are doing phenomenal things. Look at our little Zuriel. You see what we can do? So I don't believe that Nigerian youths are not equipped or they have what it takes. And what does she do? Just an advocacy champion of what good she felt could be about peace. Women, I celebrate you. You know, keep doing what you know how to do, lifting your head high. And I know with what is going on in the Senate, you say, why am I not taking a position? I believe that Senate is doing what is needful, because that's what it is an inside place, and it's a matured chambers. We shouldn't be hearing things like that. It's a matured chamber, and it should be treated with respect. It's an honor for you to be in that place alone. I was there for 12 years.
Now away from that, Plateau State is tackling economic challenges head-on in the 2025 fiscal year. That's according to the State Commissioner for Budget and Planning, Adams Lapshak, who revealed that the state's economic woes are driving efforts to meet budget targets. At a press conference in Jos, Lapshak broke down the 2025 budget, outlining measures to boost government activities and stimulate growth. News Central's Chizoba Anyowe has the story.
Tagged Budget of Consolidation and Sustainability, the Commissioner for Budget and Planning, Adams Lapshak, says the 2025 budget will ensure the hopes and aspirations of the people of Plateau State are achieved.
The budget of consolidation and sustainability reflects government's commitment to solidify past achievements and ensures the continuous growth and development of Plateau State. It equally signals the administration's commitment to prudent management of resources and implementation of economic reforms necessary for unlocking the opportunities in our economy.
Regarding judicious execution of state projects, key state actors were challenged in the areas of proper monitoring and evaluation. Lapshak says the execution of over 70 critical projects captured by government will begin once the inauguration of committees to handle them in over 300 wards of the state has been concluded.
It is important to inform all ministries, departments and agencies to ensure that the implementation of all budget heads and sub-heads aligned with the National Charge of Account appropriated. However, in the case of any challenge, the attention of the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning should be drawn. Equally, stakeholders and civil society organizations as partners in progress are also encouraged to monitor projects and programs cited in their domains to ensure they are executed based on specification.
While the implementation of the 2024 fiscal year brought about a budget revenue of over 256 billion naira, it is hoped that judicious implementation of the 2025 budget will generate even more for greater developmental strides in the state. In Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyowe.
Thank you for staying. Now, the Africa Health Agenda Conference, formerly known as the Africa Health Agenda International Conference, has just ended in Kigali, Rwanda. The gathering focused on discussing and addressing pressing health challenges facing Africa, focusing on the growing burden of both infectious and non-communicable diseases, as well as emerging health threats. To discuss more on this, we're joined by Dr. Gotatso Motumi. She's General Manager, Rochi from Johannesburg in South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us at this time, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Gotatso Motumi, as you so correctly pointed out. I want to just reiterate, I'm sitting in the Ghana office, South African born, but currently serving the Ghana office in West Africa outside of Nigeria.
Okay, it's a pleasure to have you. Now, can you go ahead and tell us, please, what are some of the key discussions or themes that, emerged at the conference, and why do you believe that this conference is crucial for health stakeholders in Africa?
So, I mean, as you might know, the HAEC is actually part of a collaborative effort between MREF and other stakeholders. And really the aim of the conference, as you rightly pointed out, was to make sure that the disease burdens of Africa are taken into account, and that the things that are, that affect Africa more disproportionately than other countries are the things that this is addressed at this. And so we cannot talk about Africa without talking about its place in the world. And so, as we know, some health diseases are much more prevalent in Africa, and by this I mean things like malaria and other diseases. However, we do see a change in some of the diseases that are coming up in Africans that are much more non-communicable disease. And I think the aim of this conference really was to talk about this as an ongoing continuum, that yes, the problems we have now might be more treatable diseases, but there are other diseases that are actually growing bigger with time. And we need to keep this in mind, especially as us private partners, but also governments that are, invested in the health of their economies, to make sure that they also think about the growing burden of the other non-communicable diseases that they may be facing.
Now, speaking of non-communicable diseases, let's talk about, discussions or side discussions on the topic of breast cancer, Dr. Mutumi. What specific disparities in breast cancer care for African women were being highlighted in this particular conference?
The unfortunate part is, as we speak now, 5 in 10 women will die of breast cancer in 5 years in Africa, whereas the global incidence of this is 8 out of 10 women are alive in 5 years after being diagnosed with this horrible disease. So the particular challenge we have in Africa and a lot of African countries is that up to now, it takes about 6 months for a woman to first notice that there's a problem before she gets adequate care. It also takes about from 30 to 40% of women currently are only diagnosed in the early stage. And this is important because the earlier you are diagnosed, the better your care. So in Africa, it's still happening that the majority of women are still being diagnosed very late in the disease, which then makes it a lot more difficult and a lot more expensive for the disease to be treated. And to add to that, at the present moment, despite what all people are trying to do from different sectors, only 35% of women are being adequately treated once they actually get the diagnosis of breast cancer. Breast cancer, along with cervical cancer, has been shown to be one of the leading causes of mortality and illness in African women. And so these numbers are very frightening when you think about them, that these are mothers of children, and these are mothers who are economic people in the economy who are bringing in money. And we found data that actually shows when a mother dies, the likelihood of children surviving past her death also becomes low. So this is an urgent thing that we need to work on. We need to make sure that our mothers are healthy. We need to make sure that our mothers stay alive if we are to move the economies of these countries that these women are representing.
Yeah, well, very frightening numbers indeed. So what advocacy efforts, were discussed to improve access to breast cancer care and support for African women?
So there are different groups that convened, obviously interested parties. I myself sit on the African Breast Cancer Council. Now, this is a group of women who've gotten together to say, from different walks of life. So you have from medical doctors to surgeons to previous first ladies, previous members of parliament saying, as a group, we want to do something. We want to work with the governments. We want to make sure that the voices of the women are heard, that we're increasing awareness of this disease, and that we want to offer ourselves up as partners to anyone who's willing to work with us and make sure that this issue gets brought up to the forefront. There are different multiple groups that were present that also work on the same thing. If I just think about in Ghana, to be specific, there's a group called Embrace. What they do is it's run by a previous cancer survivor who herself is saying what the aim that she has is for women to be able to not only be presented, but to access adequate care at the different teaching institutions where the government of Ghana, I must be honest, is actually giving treatment The problem has been that people are not always aware of the disease due to stigma, but they also don't get there in time to be treated. And so what the different groups are trying to do is saying, let's raise awareness. Breast Cancer Society of Ghana is working with us currently as Roche to try and also increase efforts in raising awareness. There are multiple other groups that I may not have mentioned, but really the aim has been to not just raise awareness, but make sure women are being adequately treated once they are away and being referred to the correct centers so that they get the adequate treatment.
Absolutely, Dr. Mutumi. We definitely hope that, with these efforts, that the outcomes of this particular conference, would definitely influence, the healthcare in Africa and especially, Black women. Thank you so much for joining us and speaking to us on this.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a lovely day further.
Now, still talking health, 3 new Ebola cases have been reported in Uganda, bringing the total to 12 since the outbreak began in late January. Ugandan authorities said in mid-February that the outbreak was contained. But the Ethiopia-based Africa CDC said a new cluster had been identified with 3 confirmed cases and 2 others probable. CDC Chief of Staff Ngashi Ngongo said a total of 69 people have been identified as contacts and all are currently being followed up. The Ebola outbreak in Uganda has left 2 people dead, a 4-year-old child and a nurse, and currently affects 5 districts. Well, let's head to South Sudan, where a spokesman for Vice President Riek Machar on Thursday said that the South Sudanese forces have arrested the peace-building minister. The arrest of Stephen Pakul follows intense fighting in recent weeks in the strategic northern town of Nasser between national forces and the White Army militia, a loosely organized group mostly comprising armed Nur Machar's ethnic group. Now, the White Army fought alongside Machar's forces in the 2013-2018 civil war that pitted them against predominantly ethnic Dinka troops loyal to President Salva Kiir. Information Minister Michael McQuay on Wednesday accused forces loyal to Machar for collaborating with the White Army and attacking a military garrison near Nasser town earlier this week. The International Federation of Journalists is calling for the immediate release of Blessed Mlanga, head of news at Heart and Soul Television in Zimbabwe. Mlanga was arrested on 25th of February and charged with inciting public violence after covering press conferences where a war veteran called for President Emmerson Mnangagwa's resignation. The IFJ has condemned the arrest, describing it as a blatant attack on press freedom and urging authorities in Harare to drop the charges. Mlanga's lawyer, Chris Mike, accused the state of criminalizing journalism by equating it to terrorism. The case has drawn widespread criticism from opposition parties and media freedom groups who argue that it reflects the ZANU-PF government's disregard for democratic values. In other news from around the world, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a temporary suspension of tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, offering short-term relief to businesses after recent market disruptions. The delay, effective until 2nd of April, follows a sharp market decline triggered by new tariffs of up to 25%. Trump's decision came after discussions with top U.S. automakers, including Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors, leading to a 1-month exemption for affected vehicles. While some Canadian and Mexican imports will still face tariffs, many products will benefit from reduced rates or exemptions. However, Trump warned that additional tariffs could be imposed from April 2nd, stressing that they would be reciprocal in nature. He also confirmed that levies on steel and aluminium would proceed as planned.
More fair for our car manufacturers during the short-term period before April 2nd. April 2nd is a little bit different. that will be much more significant. But during this interim period between now and April 2nd, this makes it much more favorable for our American car manufacturers.
Okay. And this is the same just for Mexico, sir, the previous one?
Same thing for Mexico. One for Canada, one for Mexico.
Yes, sir.
They've been in the news lately, haven't they? And I spoke to the President of Mexico, a wonderful woman, today, and we helped them out with the problem they were having to do with the tariffs, short-term tariffs. And we had a very good conversation.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has reaffirmed the urgent need to safeguard Ukraine's sovereignty, emphasizing the importance of defending its independence amid the ongoing war with Russia. Now speaking after a summit in Brussels where EU leaders agreed to strengthen the bloc's defenses, Scholz stressed that Europe must enhance its military capabilities, with NATO playing a crucial role in ensuring regional security. He also underscored the necessity of preventing further escalation, calling for a balance between the escalation efforts and bolstering Europe's defense readiness.
Zunächst mal lassen Sie mich sagen, es ist unverändert die Aufgabe, gegenwärtig alles dafür zu tun, dass dieser Krieg nicht eskaliert. Das bleibt eine zentrale Aufgabe der deutschen, der europäischen, aber auch der internationalen Politik. Und auch alle Entscheidungen, die Deutschland in diesem Zusammenhang trifft, müssen darauf gerichtet sein, dass wir ein starker, zentraler, im Augenblick der zweitstärkste internationale Unterstützer der Ukraine sind als Land. Aber dass wir alles dafür tun, dass der Krieg nicht eskaliert und sich nicht weiter ausweitet. Die Ukrainerinnen und Ukrainer wünschen sich Frieden, wir in Europa auch. Und deshalb ist alles, was an Bestreben unterwegs ist, um das zu erreichen, wünschbar. Es muss allerdings immer geschehen im Rahmen der Perspektive, die wir von vornherein verfolgen. Also, wir brauchen unsere starke eigene Verteidigungsallianz, die NATO. Wir müssen in Europa für unsere eigene Sicherheit Sorge tragen. Wir müssen dafür Sorge tragen, dass die Ukraine eine unabhängige, souveräne, demokratische Nation sein kann auf dem Weg in die Europäische Union und auch mit einer starken eigenen Armee.
In the world of sports, the Nigeria Women Football League has opened its mid-season transfer window, allowing elite clubs to bolster their squads ahead of the second phase of the 2024-2025 season. The league is currently on a break following match day 7, which saw a record-high 27 goals, including 3 hat-tricks. Remo Stars ladies lead Group A with 19 points, while Rivers Angels and Bayelsa Queens are tied at the top of Group B with 17 points. The transfer window remains open until March 11, 2025, with the season resuming on March 19. Now, top-performing teams at the end of the campaign will qualify for the NWFL Premiership Super 6 Championship to compete for the league title. Gabriel Olufumilayo and Rufiat Abdulaziz reaffirmed their supremacy in Nigerian squash with dominant victories at the 3rd Veterano Squash Closed Satellite Tournament in Lagos. Olufumilayo secured the men's title with a swift 3-0, 11-5, 11-4, 11-6 win over Shadrach in just 26 minutes, while Abdulaziz crushed Faidat Soliu 3-0, that's 11-3, 11-6, 11-3, in a rapid 15-minute final. Despite emerging young talents, both champions remain unchallenged domestically. Now they're setting their sights on international competitions, seeking greater exposure and tougher rivals. Olufumilayo aims to surpass Nigeria's top-ranked player, while Abdulaziz looks to solidify her global presence. Still talking sports, Cyril Desiers delivered a standout performance, scoring and providing an assist in Rangers' 3-1 Europa League victory over Fenerbahce in Turkey. Now, the Nigerian striker opened the scoring in the 6th minute before Ghana's Alexander Jiku equalized for the hosts in the 30-minute. This is turn provider just before halftime, setting up Vaclav Kearney to restore Rangers' lead. Kearney then sealed the win in the 81st minute with his second goal of the night. The Sears now boasts 3 goals and 2 assists in the 9 Europa League appearances this season, alongside 19 goals and 5 assists in 41 games across all competitions. Fellow Nigerian Leon Balogun featured as a substitute, while Bright Osai Samuel was absent from Fenerbahce's squad. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.